If you want Colts talk all year long, you're in the right place.
Fires upfield into the end zone. It is caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown. He's going to fire upfield. It's broken up. Tipped and intercepted by the Colts.
This is the official Colts podcast, giving you an updated look at what's new with the Horseshoes.
Colts have it. Interception. 2 seconds left, and the Colts are going to win.
In the Indiana Union Construction Industry radio studio, let's get the podcast started.
Welcome to the official Colts podcast. My name's Jeffrey Gorman. This is Larra Overton. It's just me and you today talking football.
Yeah, it is.
I got to get something off my chest, though, first.
This is a safe space.
Yeah, enough of the weather.
Oh.
And we don't even have it bad here in Indy.
The temperature.
I mean, enough of the 7 and the 4 degrees, and then coming in and everything's sopping wet with the slush.
Oh, it's the negatives. It's when there's the dash in front of the temperature that does it for me.
You're right. You're right. Anyway, bitter cold, but we got some football to talk about, and
it was a perfect weekend to just hunker down, stay inside, watch playoff games.
You said it. 3 days in a row, back-to-back double. I mean, you had double headers 3 days in a row.
Glorious.
That was good. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to comfort in the Tucker Overton household. I want to talk about tugboat a little bit, going outside, taking care of business at -2 degrees, how that goes. We got a whole bunch of stuff, off-season things to cover. But anyway, we're going to stay in football for a minute here, LO. I thought what we'd do is look at the rookie class of last year, 2023, the majority of the rookie class, and talk about their input in year one and what we can look forward to in year two from these second-year guys and what they can do to get better. Not bad, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because we got a lot to look forward to. Obviously, some of the things that Josh Downs, did as a rookie, we're going to get to that in a minute. But I want to go down the list. Anthony Richardson, right out of the gate, hey, he owned it as far as saying, hey, I know what I have to do as far as getting back on the field, what I'm missing while I'm out there. I know how far I have to invest in the playbook, even though I'm not playing. And we saw that this year. It was terrible to see him go down, but he did what he had to do, the rehab, and everything's on schedule. But the off-season preparation that takes place in the film room and the meeting room, AR is on it. Can't wait to year two on this thing to watch and see what he does with the likes of Josh Downs on the outside.
Well, and I had the opportunity to sit down with Anthony the day before he met with local media, so we have that one-on-one interview, and I felt like he was very candid, also, very confident in how he will be able to rebound from this setback and gain motivation from it. He did talk about, having to learn about, certain situations and how to adapt his game to make sure that he is protecting himself, but also still leaning into that incredible athleticism and the ability that makes him so dangerous as a quarterback. But I think that he will take a ton of motivation, not only from watching what Gardner Minshew was able to do with this team, but then, also watching Week 18, CJ Stroud. He and I talked about this. Those two are very close. They've known each other for years, obviously followed each other's college careers, came through the draft process together. Now these guys are going to be battling out in the AFC South for the foreseeable future. And he said, he admires him, has a ton of respect for him, but CJ and Anthony, that dynamic between them brings out this competitiveness within Anthony Richardson, seeing what CJ Stroud was able to do in his rookie year and what Anthony wants to bring to this team moving forward. So I think it's exciting. It's also such an incredible position for him to, when he goes down, he said he'll go down to Jacksonville. He'll train down there. That's what he will continue doing rehab and eventually work toward progressing and getting back to throwing. And he has now the playbook to work with at this point in the year. You think about last year at this point in time, he didn't know where he was going to go. You're just working out for the draft. You're preparing for the combine. You're preparing for all of the interview cycle that goes into all of it. Now he's in such a powerful position because he does have a greater mastery of the playbook, knows what the expectation is going to be, knows the guys who are going to be working with him. That's one thing in the locker room is Josh Downs told me, hey, I'm finding out when he's throwing and I'll be there. Like the moment he's there, if he's throwing again, I'm booking the ticket. I will be there. And you know that other guys will be as well. The rest of the receivers, rest of the tight ends in that room as well will be there to help continue gaining that rapport. So excited to see where that group is when they all get back together for OTAs in April. Fingers crossed, you would hope that Anthony is throwing at that point. We haven't gotten necessarily a strict, okay, it's, this many weeks, but you certainly have to kind of look to, okay, by April, when you get into OTAs and all of that, what position is he in from the health, from the recovery standpoint, if the surgery happened in late October.
Absolutely. I'm telling you, as a fan on this, I'm so ready. I'm not going to say how I think he could get better because we just don't have enough to look back on. But two things, and then we'll move on from AR. I hope, obviously, the arm comes back and everything will be fine as far as that goes, the throwing motion and everything that he puts into it in the offseason. But he's able to be comfortable in the pocket, find receivers, and two, we know what he's going to do, Larry. He's going to have 50-yard runs. He's going to have 30-yard runs. He's going to be
did you see Josh Allen yesterday?
Oh,
Josh Allen,
amazing.
second longest run by a quarterback in
Amazing.
playoff history, second only to Colin Kaepernick.
He's a mix of everything. John Elway and Cam Newton all in the same one. We'll get to him. But AR, I'm saying, be comfortable in the pocket. We know he's going to run. We know he's going to get his yards. And taking hits somehow, some way. I know it's the NFL and it's violent, but taking hits, getting down, sliding, getting out of bounds and stuff like that, protecting his body. That's what I want to see out of AR next year because he's going to be there in this offense with Shane Steichen through the roof.
Well, and we heard a couple of the other guys, I believe it was maybe Trevor Lawrence, when they faced off early in the season, and Trevor, I believe, said to him, hey, take care of yourself, right? Like, there are other guys, there are vets in this league who are saying that to Anthony, and I think he's receptive to that too. He's really good about surrounding himself with the right people, seeking, advice and feedback from good people. So I, have no doubts that he'll be able to kind of strike that balance between leaning into and honing his athleticism while also, situationally figuring out where you need to, give yourself up, slide, get out of bounds, certain situations like that.
Well, a similar second rounder in Juju Brents as far as playing time this year. It was right in the middle of the season. He missed a long stretch right there,
Yeah,
getting back.
tough.
Hopefully, this cornerback with his length, his athleticism, we saw bits and pieces of it this year, is that guy for the next 8 to 10 years. That's what you want. But Juju Brents going into a season where he's going to be healthy, he's going to come out of the offseason. What does he mean as far as an anchor on those cornerback positions?
Oh, significant. And he has to be. Of course, you look at that group right now, and there's a ton of youth because you have Kenny Moore II, who is a free agent. We'll see what happens with his contract. And then also Julian Blackmon. Those are two anchor leaders of that secondary. So if you're building this group around the structure of Gus Bradley, how he wants to play, how he wants to develop this defense, you have to look to, Juju and Jalen Jones, another rookie who had a significant year, and think about, okay, you have to take not just a step, you're going to have to take a leap in year two, no matter how good year one was.
Yep.
These are big shoes going forward. And not to say that Julian and Kenny won't be back. They very well might be. But you are going into the offseason with some uncertainty. And I did think that Juju showed so much excitement when you saw him in that Baltimore game, right? Like, it's the first game of the season, punches the ball out, gets a takeaway, and then the poise, just a couple of things, like going up against Devontae Adams, a guy who has been at the top level, playing at a high level for such a long time. Juju was completely unflappable in that situation. Got some PBUs. Like, I think he had 3 PBUs in that game. Critical game against Vegas to keep, your playoff hopes alive. Obviously, and then just the matchup there, I thought was really exciting to have him get those type of reps in his rookie season. So, and now, now he knows too. You look at kind of similar to Anthony. You don't know where you're going, coming out of college. Now you know what's expected of you. Now you know the system that you're playing in. You know the guys that you're going to be surrounded by who you can lean on. And you also know what you're going to get from this pass rush and these guys up front that can help put you in an even better position. I mean, when you have a defensive front that set the franchise sack record, okay, this is something pretty significant to build on, not just because of the guys up front, but the opportunities it creates on the back end for guys like Juju.
Can he be that guy? We had a guy here for a year, Stephon Gilmore. Can he be that? Nobody wanted to face him. Nobody still wants to face him. Can Juju be that guy where the rest of the league is saying, hey, we got to go into Indy and play against that giant corner?
I actually, funny you bring it up, I talked to Stephon Gilmore last week about Juju Brents.
Really? Good.
Yes, and Gilly was saying just how excited he is about Juju and what he can do at that position. And he sees greatness for Juju Brents in the NFL. So I think, that's the standard I think you should
you should be going
you should
for it.
aspire
You're right.
to, because, Gilly, not only his play on the field, but who he was as a leader, how impactful he was in the locker room, even just in that one season. He's a great guy to certainly say, okay, this is a guy I want to emulate in all facets. And I feel like, too, he's one, too, who embraces younger guys, wants to be a mentor to younger guys in this league. So, yeah, if I'm Juju, I'm getting Gilly on the phone. I'm going to pick his brain, do anything you can, right, to get and I know that those guys have been in contact, too. They've traded some messages.
Well, two guys that are going to make each other better, not only in the offseason, but obviously during practice next year in the regular season, going into camp included. Josh Downs, what a rookie year. Listen, I'm just blanket statement. Marvin Harrison. Yeah. I mean, Reggie Wayne here. I mean, some greats that we have. We can go back. No one has caught as many passes in their rookie year as Josh Downs. Quite an accomplishment. What'd you like about him this year, and what can we expect out of him next year?
Well, I think it was no moment's too big for Josh Downs. You saw critical situations. Like, I think back to the game in Germany when he didn't practice all week. He told Coach Steichen, I can give you 10 to 12 plays. I got 10 to 12 plays I can give you as he's battling through, I believe it was a knee, I think. I don't want to, speak incorrectly, but I think that's what it was at that point in time. It all kind of runs together when we get to January, right? And he comes up and he has that massive grab, right, against the Patriots defense. And then, there's so many moments like that you saw Josh over the course of the year. And then he has to step up and return. Something he told me he hadn't done a lot of, on special teams. Didn't do a ton of it in college. Really hadn't done that regularly since high school. I also think about, too, Josh had some injuries coming out of college that he was working through, and to come in and have so much impact that you saw in training camp, because he was really limited if you go back to, rookie minicamp period, all of that. So, just the dynamic of he and Anthony Richardson together and the possibilities that brings. I think that you saw just Josh's elite speed on display in so many situations, that playmaking ability, and just this overall confidence that, typically you see at the wide receiver position that a lot of players struggle in that rookie season, because it's such a big step, and Reggie has talked about this, right? That, you're kind of playing underneath other guys. You have to know your role. And I just thought that with Josh, he never really looked like a rookie. It was one of those where he just looked like that parts of this offense had been molded and catered to exactly his skill set. And he gave you something different than what Pitt and Alec Pierce and some of the other receivers give you, in the offense.
Does he have the ability? I think he does. Does he have the ability to be that slot receiver in the NFL that's going to play between the hash marks, graze across the middle from both sides, then find a little flare once in a while where he can catch an out, like I remember seeing, 12 yards, 16 yards down the field but be that guy in the middle that says, hey, I'm going to find me, because I'm going to be between linebackers, and I'm going to be in front of safeties in that slot position. I think he's going to be in the premier category as far as guys that are going to be so tough to cover in the NFL.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And one of the things I asked Gardner Minshew about was just kind of how they developed such continuity, and they developed that chemistry where he became a go-to guy for Gardner Minshew. And he said he's so consistent. Every time you target him, he comes up with it, right? He makes the play. And also,
and he drops this year? He
had an incredible run with no drops.
I'm
most
sorry.
Targets with no drops.
Right. I should be on top of this. I think that he did go through the season, now that I think of it, the last two games is where I'm juggling in my memory, with no drops. And we always got it.
And it wasn't all just straight at him. He had to make adjustments on the ball. He had to lay out for some grabs, And then the other thing too, yards after catch that he was able to get as well because of how elusive he is.
The reason I'm stumbling for words here is, on the couple times, two, 3 times this year, and during the season, that I had a chance to sit down with him, he stressed, I'm always open. Mm-hmm. Not being funny, not being funny. He's like, yeah, I'm always open on every route that I run. I'm always open. I'll find a way that I'll always be open. And it's true. That sort of mentality is true, especially with AR coming out. It's crazy.
And for Josh, too, to go through that rookie season with, from what we know, pretty minimal injuries.
You talked about the Germany thing, yeah.
Just the Germany game, but, he hardly missed any time, really, from a game. I don't think he missed a game all year. And then you go into the offseason, don't know if he has to have any sort of, procedures or, guys get things cleaned up in the offseason. But if he can go into this offseason without having any sort of extended time off and recovery, oh my gosh, all he's going to continue to do is get better.
More Josh Downs jerseys around Lucas Oil Stadium that will be popping up for years to come. Okay, arguably some people have written in, via internet, via snail mail as well, and FedExed overnight envelopes.
Yeah.
Some have written in that Rookie of the Year for the Colts should be this next gentleman, 4th rounder, Blake Freeland.
Wow.
What do you think of that? I mean, we plug and play and said, hey, bro, you're going up against some of the biggest names in the NFL
and
on the
two
edge,
positions,
and you're starting.
left and right. And
exactly.
You're on both ends of the line.
I mean, tell me about this rookie campaign and what do you think about what he did this year and what we can expect next year?
He had such tough assignments this year to step into. And we knew so much about the growth that Bernhard Raimann had this year. And I thought, he was incredible. And then, Braden Smith has been playing at a high level for so long. Like, these are like two really tough guys that you're thinking about, okay, rookie season, I'm just going to have to step in and fill these big shoes, especially with some of these defensive fronts that the Colts were facing when Blake was, getting called up. And I thought that the experience factor for him, I thought you saw him get just better each and every week, each and every time he had that opportunity. And that versatility for him to go in right or left was significant. And no one really expected that he would see as many reps, as significant of reps as he did this season. So I thought this was incredible for him. You look at Bernard and the strides he took from year 1 to year 2. I expect something very similar from Blake Freeland. And I think it's a real testament, too, to the guys who you have in the center of that line as well to help Blake get, put himself in positions in those games that he started, where you have, Quentin and Ryan Kelly and Will Fries to be able to help him in those situations as well, because this offensive line in its entirety returned to that form that you expect them to be at. And I thought this was an immense testament to the work of Tony Sperano Jr.
Sure,
what
great
he
first
did
year.
with that great first year. You saw the run game and what you were able to do even prior to Jonathan Taylor returning. I mean, think about Zach Moss up against the Ravens, right? And what you were able to get from that group along with Zach. So, yeah, I thought this was a huge year for Blake. Excited for him to now kind of have that experience and know the things that he's going to have to work on, right? Kind of, I'm sure he walked out. One of the things, too, testament to Shane Steichen, that in addition to holding the team meeting on locker cleanout day, he met with every single player. It's all guys on the 53, practice squad guys, injured guys, met with him one-on-one. And I'm sure the position group coaches did something similar, but Blake Freeland walked out with a list of goals that he has, things he wants to work on, whether it's notes from Shane, notes from Tony, whatever it happens to be, notes he took himself. That's going to be fuel for him going into this offseason. And he's huge.
Yeah.
Like, he's just, when you have that at your disposal already,
right.
My God, and then just the development that you can take. And, it's also worth saying, like, he played collegiately at BYU. Great program. What's the biggest matchup you have? Probably, it's BYU, Utah. Like,
Sure.
He was talking about, like, that's the big game that you're playing. Okay, now you're going into games where you have, the Cleveland Browns and Myles Garrett that you're going up against,
sure.
right? Or Max Crosby and the Raiders defense, right? That's pretty significant. It's not like when you're playing at Ohio State or Alabama or, Michigan. Congrats to the Wolverines.
Right? There we go.
So I think that's something, too, to keep in mind.
Absolutely, and can't wait. And it's only going to get better. You talked about it best. The head coach, the coaches, the position coaches, anything they said to Blake, they're constructive criticisms are going to be about that much. The rest is praise.
Yeah.
And hey, you got to keep working hard and get better. So that's a good thing to have when you have a 4th rounder like that, getting that snap count going.
And I know that no one holds themselves to a higher standard than
right.
Blake does. Like, obviously, like all the coaches are, all his teammates are, but Blake is himself, going to do that.
That's going to be great. Look forward to Blake next season, as well as many others. How about this one? Let's stay in the 4th. Tommy Adebawore. I'm going to say incomplete. He was up, he was down. He was some games he was active, he was inactive. What do you think about Tommy? Obviously needs more reps when you come in as a 4th-round defensive lineman. And a tough group, by the way, to fit into with some of the veterans that the Colts had this year.
Well, I think you have seen the progress that guys like Kwity Paye and Dio Adebawore have made. It's a position that takes some growth, right? And it is more of this is a long-term development plan where, you're going to come in year 1. You're going to get some significant time. You're going to work your way in with that group. You're going to have an impact. He was one of those players. I mean, they had, 15 different guys who had a sack, who recorded a sack in 2023. That's huge. And Tommy was one of those guys. So I think that you look at, that template that you have seen, with guys who have been drafted on that defensive front and the growth that they have been able to have. Interesting, too, to see what happens with Grover Stewart this offseason when you talk about that defensive line. line group. Obviously Nate Ollie did an incredible job with the guys in the development of that unit. I think it's significant for Tommy to have that time, working in and learning from the DeForest Buckners and the Taekwon Lewises of the world, right? Taekwon with such a great year. And you're seeing that the veterans of that group led the charge, and that's what you want. That's what you would expect. So for Tommy to have such this year as a development year, getting in, finding your way will be significant for him and his progress.
He's going to be a good one, and like you said, hey, cracking that lineup to get some reps in. Mm-hmm. It's all about reps at this level, and Tommy will be looking for you next training camp. Now, let's go to the 5th. This is a great one. I know I like to call some guys your guy, but you've been talking about him for a long time, and surprisingly, some big plays this year. Love Will Mallory, tight end.
Oh, my gosh. What an opportunity he got. And you think about, too, it was like that game at Houston, right? It was like this explosive catch, critical situation,
right.
Week 2, and he just kind of announces himself that, he was going to be an integral piece of this offense. I thought he stepped in, and this is an offense that is going to heavily rely on tight ends. When you look at Shane Steichen's track record, what he has done, what he did previously in Philadelphia with that offense, the tight end group who he was working with there, and Will gives you a little something different, right? You have obviously, Mo, and then you have Kylan Granson, who are kind of on those two extremes, and then Will's a little bit something different. So I think he's going to be a really important piece of a different factor of what he can do. He has that explosiveness. I think as a pass-catching tight end, he is certainly going to be a threat. That group is really interesting to me because you had the whole year without Jelani Woods, and I thought that did create opportunities for Will. Significant opportunities for him. And I thought that every opportunity that he had, he capitalized on, right? Like it wasn't, he looked at each of those as, okay, every time I have an opportunity, I've got to come up with a play, right? And then I thought too that really Mo in the blocking game, I thought he was huge this year. Loved Mo's leadership in the command that he had of that room. So you're kind of seeing a balance of some different weapons, and it'll be interesting to me to see. But I do think Will Mallory has to be a piece that you build around in this offense.
Absolutely, and he's like a wide receiver after he catches the ball. But really quick, and then we'll move on. Let's go over the tight end room when he walked into training camp. Let's go over that. We had Woods. You had Mo Alley. You had Kylan. Mm-hmm. You had Ogletree at that time. You had Will Mallory. Who am I missing? I thought there was one more. So I'm saying a 5th rounder coming into that room.
Well, back in camp, you had Farrell Brown.
Farrell Brown was signed. Exactly. Like an older veteran like that. So I'm saying Will Mallory, 5th rounder, saying, hey, I'm just doing what I can. And really, like you said, had some exciting plays. Tip of the hat goes to that kid, and he's going to be good in this offense for a minute.
I think that one of the things you were intrigued by when you drafted him was, hey, football family. He comes from a family of football coaches. He is a football guy. You know the work ethic that you're going to get. You know he's a guy who's going to grind on the tape, who is going to do everything that's asked of him, because especially with those young tight ends, you got to earn it, right? You got to earn the playing time. You got to do some of the dirty work on special teams, in the run game with blocking and all of that. So I think that you knew that he gave you, all of those factors that you wanted in terms of kind of investing in a guy for the long term. But yeah, I think he also too. We had him back here for
great kid.
Oh, he was so fun to talk
Sweet
to.
Kid,
He's so fun to talk to. Just kind of I love that tight end room. I'm very intrigued to see what they can do, especially with a guy like Anthony Richardson.
Can't wait. Hey, let's go on. You mentioned him early. Had thrown into the fire, as they say, 7th rounder Jalen Jones, cornerback, and major reps for that. And similar as far as body style goes to what the corners are going to look like for Indianapolis for hopefully, knock on glass, for a while. Those are long, tall guys with big reach on both Jones and Juju.
And yet again, I think this is the 3rd straight Chris Ballard press conference where he's brought up Jalen Jones and how the area scout, Anthony Coughlin, stood on the table. It kind of pounded the table for this guy to get an opportunity on this roster, beat out Darius Rush to get a roster spot, right?
Was Rush a 4th?
Does
that sound right?
That sounds right, yeah. But I mean, my goodness, what he was able to do. The Colts drafted 3 corners in the 2023 draft, and then 2 of them make the 53-man and 2 play significant time, meaningful reps, and they are going to be critical guys for you moving forward. Jalen, to me, I mean, just he just every time. Like he doesn't take a rep off. He doesn't miss. There are so many games, and I would have to go back kind of tape by tape, in which he stepped up. He was given very tough assignments, and he had those matchups that he was able to capitalize on and prove why he was deserving of a spot and why he is going to be an important piece of a Gus Bradley defense moving forward. And I talked to both Juju and to Jalen about how meaningful it was for them to have each other going through this period of time, right? Leaning on one another. And basically, like, they got a quarter of the way to the season and they thought, yeah, no excuses. We're not playing as young guys. We're not using the rookie excuse. Like, we're not going to rest on that as being like, oh, okay, they're rookies. They're going to take time to develop. No, we want to be impactful players. We're going to be pros now. Right. And I just thought that their mentality really showed with the play that both those guys gave you over the course of the season.
A seventh rounder, you got to love those nuggets.
Hey,
that
another
are found.
guy too, who got recognition in the press conference as well, who's intriguing when you're talking about rookies. We didn't get to see him, but Daniel Scott at the safety position. He was a draft pick, a guy who they're very high on with his development and the piece that he can be. I mean, my goodness, look at, the safety position, guys moving around with, Nick Cross and Julian Blackman and Rodney Thomas II. There was a lot of rotation in that position. So when Daniel Scott gets back, he had, was it an ACL or an Achilles? ACL, I think, in OTAs or training camp is what set him out the entirety of the year. So he'll kind of have a red shirt.
Like an extra draft choice, yeah.
Right. So that'll be critical for him as well.
Especially with, like you said, hey, contract here. There is a business side to this thing. Some players are going to be here. Some will not be there. A couple names really quick, and we'll move on to what's going on in the NFL playoff situation. Evan Hull, running back. Yes, looking forward to what he can bring next year.
Yeah, obviously he was somebody who they were intrigued by coming out of the draft as a pass-catching running back. It's a role you're going to need to have. It'll be interesting to see what they do with Zach Moss, Trace Sermon, Tyler Goodson, and now you have Evan Hull in there as well. He had a great career at Northwestern, very productive college career. Can he be that guy at this level? It'll be exciting to see, intriguing to see when he does get back because, his injury was a bit interesting because it didn't look nearly as severe, and then you see him and he's got the full brace on, and then it's year ending. So yeah, it's you didn't see enough to know what you're going to get from him.
Well, plenty of time that we're going to have in the offseason to go over some different scenarios. And, of course, we'll talk some free agency coming up. Titus Leo is another guy that we could go in, an edge rusher from a small school. Chris Ballard has got some pieces in the back that he's got that are going to, going to fill out 100 names or so come training camp. And some of these second-year guys like Titus Leo and stuff and Evan Hull, Jake Witt included on the offensive line are going to get their chance. So keep it here. Colts.com for all your offseason news. Follow Larra on Twitter, X at Larra Overton. This is a friendly reminder. We are the official Colts podcast brought to you by our friends at Wynn Las Vegas. Do you want to pick some NFL playoff scenarios? Do you want to do it with the spread, or do you just want to pick me some winners? Because I'm going to make a silly little game out of this somehow.
Okay.
Some way. Okay.
Pulling it up.
Is there any way? Let's start at Saturday, 4:30. Divisional round, Texans at the Ravens. Ravens are a -9. Just off the top of your head, who do you like in that game? I mean, we're going out on a limb, and then I'll talk about the point spread afterwards. Just give me a winner.
Baltimore coming off rest.
Yeah.
Plus, they have Mark Andrews back.
Big. Oh, gosh.
Right?
You're kidding.
Yeah.
That weapon for Jackson, the big tight end.
Exactly. And, they've got that extra week. They're obviously, playoff tested. This is a team that there were a lot of, people wanted to try to doubt Lamar Jackson going into this year. Can he stay healthy? Can he return to that MVP level that we've seen him at? Can he be that guy again and continue to be that guy? I'm not going to doubt Lamar Jackson. I mean, the Texans looked absolutely phenomenal. Congratulations to them and what they were able to do against Cleveland. I think it's a different test going on the road at Baltimore against a team that is so postseason experienced. It's tough to pick against the Ravens right now.
Ravens, are they going to blow them out, or it'll be a tight one?
Oh, I think it'll be a tough game. I mean, I wouldn't. I don't think that the Texans are getting blown out by anybody at this point with what they were able to do. My God, the job of DeMeco Ryans this year. He has that team rolling right now. They have all the momentum working in their favor. I do think, though, going on the road is going to be something different. Did you hear? I mean, they were raucous, at NRG Stadium. That environment looked absolutely electric. They were were feeding off of that. We know what it's like to play on the road in a hostile environment in Baltimore. I think it's going to be a great competitive game. I think it's going to be a thrilling game, super physical game with what both those teams are coming in with, but I think Baltimore has the edge in that one.
Yeah, I think you're right on that one, but don't, like you said, we cannot doubt C.J. Stroud. Great game that Saturday at 4:30. We both like the Ravens in a close one. All right, Saturday night game, Packers. Again, Jordan Love, here it is. People doubted the kid.
Who saw that coming?
No,
I did not see that coming.
Into Dallas like that.
Wow.
Anyway, they're at the 49ers, another well-rested team, much like the AFC's Ravens, and it's another big spread. The Ravens, I don't get this. 49ers minus 10 points. The Packers coming in a hot team with Jordan Love. What do you like?
I think it'll be close. I mean, much closer than what the spread is giving you, but I just think San Francisco has too many weapons. They just have so many weapons to lean on. I love the Brock Purdy story so much. Like, you know, I think what he's done over the past 2 seasons has been remarkable. I think that love the Packers, obviously. They've been, and no pun intended, but man, Jordan Love, you think about the task of coming up behind Aaron Rodgers, that, everything that entailed for him. This was a year, I think, that people had kind of written off the Packers to some degree. And, I mean, it's obviously easy to kind of go with the 1 seeds when they're coming in. They got the bye week. They got the rest. But, yeah, I think it's going to take an awful lot to knock off the Niners at this point. I mean, they have not been perfect this season. They have had some flaws exposed. They've had some weaknesses exposed. But, I mean, I think that they're coming in really hungry off of last season, obviously coming up just short last year in the playoff run. So, yeah, it's, I'm going both 1 seeds. That might be kind of cliche.
I mean, it's tough. I mean, those 2 teams, like the Texans and the Packers, similar, both like not head scratchers, but like young quarterbacks that are playing, getting better and better as the season goes on.
And I got to say something too. My girl Stacey Dales of NFL Network, who we absolutely love, she was warning me back in training camp about Jordan Love and how special he was going to be this season. Huh? So, Stacey Dales, you called it.
Tip the hat, Stacey. As usual, you're on it. All right, Buccaneers, the Baker Mayfield story continues against the Lions. The Lions, an incredible story as well. Obviously, they saw that Eminem angle that they had going on the other night at Ford Field in Detroit. But they are at the Lions. Lions are a 6-point favorite. Can Baker Mayfield go into Detroit and upend the Lions?
I think from what you saw yesterday, anything is possible with that team. I'm a little nervous with the Bucs having such short rest with everything Baker has going on with the ribs and the ankle. Did you hear Laura Rutledge had like a phenomenal report about everything that Baker had to do to get ready to play in that game? Again, you talk about stepping, you're following Tom Brady, right? Like, and the Bucs had very little cap space to work with. I think they were over the cap. They essentially had to get a quarterback kind of on a bargain, on a prove it type of deal. You got Baker Mayfield, and I love this too because, people wanted to cast Baker off, write him off as kind of a bust. He has used all that fuel to put him in this position, to take the Bucs to where they are, going to the divisional round. I mean, that was a tough match. Rams-Lions, that was a very close game.
Oh, man.
I don't know. I don't. It's too soon for me to tell. I think what scares me the most is the Bucs are going to have short rest going into Detroit, and Dan Campbell and, his double, he drinks probably as much, if not more caffeine than I do.
Is that right?
He and I might compete for Starbucks points.
Latte Larra Overton right there.
I don't know. Not to cop out, but I need more time.
I'm just going to say.
I need more time.
I'm going to say Buccaneers.
You taking it?
Go into Detroit.
You think so?
It's crazy, and the reason I'm saying it is they can get the running game going with White. Obviously, between Godwin and Mike Evans, and they have a big tight end there, and Baker's going to rely on that. I just think somehow, some way, that run is going to continue, and the Lions bubble's going to burst, and people are going to say, like, you're crazy, you're nuts, it's a tough place to play. Aquan St. Brown, obviously the quarterback play from Goff. I'm sorry. I just like, this is the NFL. Anything can happen, and we've seen it. I like the Bucs. Let's go to the Sunday night game. Chiefs, first time in Mahomes' career. How about that one? 15
That's
times.
Unbelievable.
First time in his career that he has a playoff game outside of Arrowhead Stadium. This is his first one on the road, and he is at the Bills. You did a little weather reporting for us, much like you did back in the day.
Right.
What can we expect up in Buffalo?
Going back to my green screen days. Okay, so actually Buffalo, obviously they moved the game around this past weekend due to all the snow, that lake effect that was coming in. It's going to snow all week. But for Sunday, Low of 19, high of 24, partly cloudy. It looks like the snow will clear out by Saturday afternoon.
Okay.
So they'll have plenty of time to shovel your seats out right there, as you saw the people doing.
Crazy, yeah.
So
Hats off to you.
conditions don't look terrible. Obviously, Kansas City had just a monstrosity of conditions their own when they were playing this past weekend. So, it's two, battle-tested cold weather teams still going to be in cold conditions, but not having to survive the negative temperatures that you did last weekend in Kansas City and not the snow that you had this past week in Buffalo. Okay, so I had to go back because Buffalo and Kansas City played just a few weeks ago, week 14 at Kansas City. Buffalo won in that one. Buffalo won 20-17, very close game. Again, that was at Kansas City. I think it is tough to count out the Chiefs in the postseason ever. I think it is dangerous to do that. Buffalo looked incredible. We mentioned Josh Allen with a big run, but they started to Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, who do they play? Like all these games are right. They let Pittsburgh back in
They
it.
did. They did.
You can't do that with Kansas City. If you have, a 4-score lead, you got to shut the door on people. So I'm a little nervous with that, with the way that they just kind of let the Steelers creep back in it. I'm never gonna doubt the Chiefs, but man, I think the Bills are playing with house money right now.
I'm
right?
with you. It's a Bills afternoon. I love Mahomes, but it's not going to happen for him. So, Latte Lara, you're going to go Ravens. Going to bet chalk. Ravens, 49ers, the favorites there. You're going to take the Lions. I'm going to take the Bucks, and we both are on the Bills. So let's compare some notes.
All right, we'll come back.
That's against the spread and picking them well. Don't forget, this is the official Colts podcast brought to you by our friends at Wynn Las Vegas. Last thing, it's been very, very cold, and then we're going to go into the teens. But we did have some, -2s and stuff here in Indianapolis, but you're watching game. I want to get inside your household for a minute.
Yeah.
You got a couple of games back to back. Well, are we snackety? Are we snacketing? Are you and Tucker making stuff? Who has tugboat duty to go outside in the freezing rain?
That's usually me because I go outside because I'll go out. I went out this weekend to run
right,
outside, so I'm already bundled up.
Yeah.
So I'm already bundled up. So I just piggyback the tugboat walk onto that. Try to get everything done early, get the chores done, all of that.
Chores.
On Saturday night, we ran out and grabbed carryout from Ale Emporium.
There you go. Good
so
stuff.
So we did the Hermanaki boneless wings. Thoughts that they are. I know some people don't believe in the boneless wing. I like the boneless wing, less waste. And then Tucker got a pizza with it as well. So that's usually our go-to if we're hunkered down. Cannot go wrong with some Ale Emporium wings. I miss Keystone Sports Review, though, right now.
What's
so
that?
they moved. So KSR has been a staple of the Broad Ripple area for many, many years. And they used to be right there at like 54th and Keystone. They closed that location, and they're moving in a little bit farther north, right around 71st and Keystone. But they haven't reopened yet. That's my other wing spot.
Oh,
They've
I
been
see.
closed for a while. So I've really missed that this football season, not having the old KSR as an option.
A couple of double headers are coming up. I don't know
Yeah,
what I'm
so-
going to get into, but I'm going to say a staple around playoff football time. It's the weirdest thing. It sounds great. Spreadable cheese.
Oh, yeah.
Spreadable cheese around this time of year, around the playoffs. I know it's corny. I know Colin, you're rolling your eyes at me. I get it. But if there's spreadable cheese, I know it's NFL playoff time.
I will also share with you, this is a recipe that I made for the first time last year during the playoffs. I've run it back a few times. I'll probably bring it back this weekend. But it is buffalo chicken pull-apart sliders.
Yes, bring it in here, please.
Yes, I
Bring
can
it
do
in
that. I can do
here,
that. So you get
please.
the little Hawaiian,
Yes,
the little
buns.
Hawaiian
Oh.
rolls, and you slice them like down the middle horizontally. So you just lay them open, and you put down some ranch dressing on the bottom. You do some shredded chicken with some Frank's hot sauce. You do some sliced jalapenos, top it with some white cheddar.
Jeez.
You put the bun top on. You spread some butter on there.
Yeah, like by Friday, please. Can
okay.
you please bring it in
Bring
Friday.
in. I have to make a double batch.
Just a
I
sampler,
think.
yeah.
I double batch for probably the entire group. But yeah, I do it. I usually like to cook my chicken either earlier in the day or the day before in the crock pot, so it shreds really well.
Look at you. Yeah. If you're in the Broad Ripple area, knock on the Overton Tucker
Yeah,
household and,
yeah.
and eat like a
It's my
king and a
go-to.
queen. Hey, I appreciate the time. That was good. Run through the rookie class. Like I said, we're going to talk free agents and a whole lot more because off-season news in the NFL doesn't stop. And we got to re-sign some guys and not re-sign some guys. Going to be some tough talks we're going to have here in the next couple of weeks. See who's going to be back next week. But
Absolutely.
as always, the lady who knows the most about this football team is right there at Larra Overton on Twitter X. Don't forget, you can always follow along at Colts.com. We'll have the latest and the greatest. Anything you want to add before we say goodbye, Miss O?
No, everybody just stay safe in the cold. Bundle up, take care of your people, check on your neighbors and everybody else. So
and get those pets out of there at night.
Yeah,
if they're outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's our good. Hey, that was
What
good.
are we, Bob Barker?
Yeah, no, good public
Have your
service
pets
announcement
spayed and
there.
neutered.
All right, thank you, Colin, behind the camera today. And guys, we will talk to you next week. As always, go Colts.